We are ready to go with Richard Rummel, who is here with us. He is with the Bear Program in the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. So y'all had an interesting week last week, huh?
Yeah.
Got a couple bears captured, huh?
We really did. Over in the South Delta around the Eagle Lake area where we've started doing some supplemental feeding for the deer, one of our employees was going to check feeders one morning, and there was a big bear laid up in the feeder. He notified us, so we kind of put the wheels in motion, decided here's a good opportunity to trap bears. So we took a culvert trap over there and set up our boar buster camera, which I'm not sure if Anthony Ballard has been on here before. He's the nuisance biologist and has the remote camera live feeds what they use on the hog traps. We set up one on our culvert trap for the bear, and a week ago Saturday, on the 29th, we caught a large male, 380-pound male bear. 2 days later, on Monday, we caught a female, and by that time we'd actually put the actuator on the trap door, which allows you to monitor the camera and sit up there at the road or wherever. Mm-hmm. And when the animal goes in, you can hit the button and it drops the trap door. Technology has advanced quite a bit, so that worked out well for us. So, and then we radio collared her. We've caught another male the following day. So in 4 days, we caught 3 bears. Got 2 of them radio collared. Hopefully by the end of the week, or actually maybe the next couple of days, we'll start getting some satellite feeds, locations on those bears.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you. So tell me more about trapping the bear. First of all, everybody wants to know what you baited it with. Was it a dozen donuts?
It was donuts.
Was it really?
For real. He's not joking, JT. No. He is not joking.
I guessed it right, huh?
Hey, the Donut Palace in Flowood. I'm going to give them a plug.
What flavor? Jelly, chocolate?
Traditionally, we get donut shops will give us day-old donuts. They know what we're using them for, and give us day-old donuts.
Like how many day-old donuts does a donut shop have?
I don't know.
Well, it depends on how much they like.
How many day-old donuts does a bear eat?
And a lot. And they have every kind of donut, and they give them to us.
Do you have any police come by to the traps to check the traps?
This is coming from a law enforcement officer over here. You hear that, don't you?
So actually, that first day, that Friday, we set everything up and locked the trap door up. And before I forget, you can go on our website and look on our Facebook page and see that little that trapping effort there. But we locked the trap door up and just bait it and monitor it by camera to see bears coming around and going in and out of the trap. So the next day we actually set it where the trap door would trigger if they went in. So yeah, we just the bears were in the area. We spread donuts all around, threw some up in there, and as the old saying goes, they took the bait after a while.
Now Richard, you were telling me at the office how quickly this happened. How between the time the trap was set and the first bear was caught was how long?
Actually 3.5 hours, and this was
That's
midday.
Pretty quick.
We got it set up at 10:30 in the morning, and we were back up the road about 3/4 of a mile away, monitoring the camera. And at 2:00, the door dropped. That was when we just had it triggered where they could pull on a lever inside and trap themselves. The next day is when we actually connected the actuator on the door where we could sit in your lounge chair at home and hit the button if you wanted to, if you were close enough to drop the door.
So what are we going to learn? I mean, what are these collars going to tell us?
Okay, these collars, to back up a little bit, what we do when we chemically immobilize a bear. Tranquilizer's not a good word. We want it completely asleep. So we take it out, we weigh it, we do all kinds of measurements. We put ear tags in them. We put a pit tag, like a microchip you might have on your dog or cat for later identification. And these GPS satellite collars, what they do is these are programmed to send a signal every 6 hours over a 24-hour period. And up to a satellite, are downloaded, and once a week we will get an email from the company, and it shows all the locations, the bear that have been recorded every 6 hours over a 24-hour period. So we can, not in real time, see where the animal is, but over a weekly period, we can track it and see where it's been. So they're really good. We don't have to be out there. We can if we want to. But these actually go up and they're downloaded, and we can take those coordinates off of an Excel file and actually map it out, show dots on a map of actually where the bear's been over time. And particularly right now with the flooding situation in the South Delta, back in 2011, we had 10 or 12 bears radio collared, and we could kind of keep track of where they were going, what they were doing. This year in the South Delta, we didn't have any. We have a couple left up in the North Delta in Bolivar County. So all we were doing is kind of basing what we learned in 2011, that pretty much those bears stayed within their normal home range, whether they climbed trees or found a little bit of dry land. But they didn't they didn't go 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 miles away from where they were. But this will give us actually where they are now, as hopefully one day this water's going to recede in the next couple of months, and will they move back into an older home range? What's interesting is the female that we caught was actually caught originally in 2012, about 1.75 miles from where she is now. So she will probably move back up into that area that's currently flooded.
It's just people who haven't been to the Delta just can't quite understand how vicious this flood was, not only for people but for wildlife.
It's true.
I don't think people can really put their heads around it, can they?
They can, and I was talking to Butler earlier this morning, asked if he had been over there, and our staff is doing a lot of monitoring over there. Has been since things began with wildlife situation. Unless you can see it firsthand, either fly over it or at least go along that levee, which we're allowed to work on right now, monitoring the wildlife, you can't get a grasp of the situation over there. And again, in talking with some of our guys who live and work in that area, they say, some of these areas have been underwater since November and December. We
were talking about it in our meeting. Our news director was talking about it. Said she was up there over the weekend. She said the smell will knock you down up there.
Yeah.
It's just from what has been going on.
Yeah.
And where we are. And obviously, as we said, and we realize the property, the farming, the property, all of those things, I get all of that, and I understand
Absolutely.
it. But people remember, too, the wildlife is going to it's going to be impactful for sure for a while.
Right.
It's not something that's just going to go away.
Yeah. And one of these things these radio callers will tell us, too, it may be 2 to 3 years before we see how the bears have been impacted. Like I said, we go back and look at 2011 and see what happened with those bears. Some that were actually inside the levee, 4 females ended up having cubs that year, having litters that year. They can rebound a lot quicker than some animals. Hopefully we'll see this female that we radio collared. Will she return to her home range? Interesting tidbit in monitoring these traps with our camera is we actually witnessed breeding. She got bred by one of the male bears there one morning that we were able to see on video. So whether that's successful or not, we don't know, but she did go through breeding behavior with one of the males, so it'll be interesting to see early next spring when we find her if she had cubs.
Richard Rummel here with us. We're talking about the bears and got a couple bears that have been collared, and I appreciate you coming in here today. We're going to talk some stream fishing when we come back. All right, let's do some stream fishing here, Adam. We've got Matt Roberts here, who's the director of grants. Is that correct?
He is our director of grants, but he is stream fisher extraordinaire.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, let's hear about it.
Used to be a fisheries guy, but we got him behind the scenes now.
So why, with the summer heat on, it's a great time to go get in the streams.
Man, yeah.
Well, hey, good to be here with y'all. I was sitting over there, and when Butler mentioned here in Mississippi, we're blessed with all these beautiful streams. I did a little bit of Googling. It's not like I had this figure in my mind, but in Mississippi, 14,000 miles
Wow.
of streams in the state of Mississippi. That's a big number, fellas.
That is a big number. Wow.
And I'm thinking about, summertime, it's hot. To go fishing in a creek in Mississippi, you got a pair of old shoes, you got a couple of good legs, you got what you need to go fishing here in Mississippi.
So, how is it different? Tell me the difference between stream fishing and, say, being in the lake or a reservoir.
Well, where's Larry Pugh today? Larry Pugh. I told Larry
He was here last week. He'll be back in like 2 months.
He and I were talking about that question, JT. What differentiates fishing on a lake or a reservoir from a stream? And I told Larry, I said, on a reservoir, I'm a fish out of water. I don't know what I'm doing. A reservoir. So as fishermen, we key in on structure. We key in on changes in depth, when we're approaching our fishing strategy. On a reservoir, when you're looking out across that lake surface, a reservoir kind of keeps all its secrets hidden. It's a secretive type. It's got peaks and depressions and snags, but you can't tell. You need, when you're on a reservoir, you need some equipment, a depth finder, some gear to tell you what's going on beneath the surface. Where are you going to cast your lure? On a stream wears its heart on its sleeve. Like whatever's going on beneath the surface is readily apparent to you on the top. You read the water on a stream. They're shallower. That water is moving. So structure below the surface, peaks and valleys that you might want to key in on when developing your fishing strategy, it's right there. You see it with your own two eyes. I've got everything I need built in.
So, what kind of fish are we talking about? What are we trying to catch? What are we going to be pulling out of these streams when we go stream fishing?
When I'm on a stream in Mississippi, I approach it as I bass fish, basically. But one of the things about being out there on a stream is they harbor a more diverse array of different types of fish than you're going to encounter in a reservoir.
Such as?
So we may be out there approaching it as a bass fishing opportunity, but you have the opportunity to catch catfish, all types of sunfishes, but even fishes we may not be necessarily aware of. Different types of suckers, larger minnows. You never know what's going to hit when you're fishing a stream in Mississippi.
So give me the strategy. Tell me some of the strategies for stream fishing, about getting to the fish, what kind of tackle you use, and maybe a little bit about the techniques.
I kind of look at it as fish in a stream are living on or in a food conveyor belt, all right? And they're aware of that. The current flow in a stream is bringing food items down with that current to the fish. So they're going to be set up in areas that, allow them to access that conveyor belt of food items, but also allow them to be set up where they're not having to fight that current. All right, they want to work with the current, allow it to bring food to my mouth, but can I set up somewhere kind of off to the side or in a current break where I'm not having to spend energy, right, to fight to keep my space within the current. So, when I'm out there, I'm looking for eddies, where the water is swirling. You can tell there's some kind of element, whether it be a downed tree or a boulder under the surface, that's breaking up that current and creating kind of a slack area behind like a piece of structure where a fish can hold up, kind of hang out in some slack area and face out into that current and wait for those food items to come by. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to cast my bait typically upstream and bring that bait downstream and past these current breaks where I suspect a fish is going to be hung up, waiting to take advantage of that.
And of course, accessing streams in Mississippi. Let's touch on this. We just got a couple of minutes left, and Chris, you may want to help out here. But is something got to be really careful about wading in public and private waters and what constitutes trespassing? It's something you got to be very aware of for sure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get this question a lot during waterfowl season along the rivers, and the Mississippi gets most of the play there, but it's still public water. DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, has a map showing all the public waters that they deem public across the state. And like Matt and I were talking during the break, whoever's fishing, however you access this public body of water needs to be by legal methods, either being a public boat ramp or some land you have permission on or land you own. And the Attorney General's opinion says that if you're utilizing the water that's not flood waters, just normal water within the main channels of that stream bed or creek, and you get out and you're wading in the channel, for instance, that in the past the Attorney General has ruled or given opinion that constitutes the thumbs up, right? Trying to you can do that if you stay there. Now, if you start walking up on sandbars, if you start wading in flooded areas, long way from the main channel, you're going to be outside of the approved methods there.
So, I mean, just out of curiosity, like I have land it goes all the way to the Okatoma.
Right.
And I've always been told that, like, even when you sign a deed, it's the half of the middle of the stream when it comes to that.
Right.
So, I mean, does that mean that half of the Okatoma is actually my property or not?
The ground underneath.
The ground underneath.
Not the water on top.
Not the water on top.
The water flowing above it is the state of Mississippi's.
Okay.
It's public water. Mm-hmm. And the state, we could do a whole show on public water stuff because it's so it's a lot of language there, and it's kind of overwhelming to look at, for anybody to try to figure it out, because we don't have a definitive line stated. For instance, the Mississippi River, we get them all the time. But short answer to your question, yeah, the land underneath is yours, but the water on top, if they stay there, and then if the person gets out and is waiting there in the channel, that is deemed public use by the Attorney General's opinion.
Well, there you go. I learn something to do every day. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you being here. Good luck on some string fishing, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Matt Roberts, Director of Grants